Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Call the meeting of the Development Committee of April 20th to order. See, we do have a forum in the room pursuant to Illinois Attorney General's guidance to public bodies and the Open Meetings Act. During the COVID-19 pandemic, planning board members may participate without being physically present in compliance with established provisions. I see that member Colbert is joining us via Zoom. Is there a motion to make member? Oh, no, I don't need it. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of allowing member Colbert to participate?
Aye. Aye.
Any nays? And member Colbert, well, moving on to that. Roll call, please.
Member Krajewski,
Here.
Member Colbert. Here. Member Garcia. Here. Member Ozon.
Here.
Member Rutledge.
Here.
Chair Torrentorn.
Here. And we have a quorum. Just to let you know, under chairman's remarks, so you don't think that there's by surprise. On item E, I'm going to be stepping out of the room and recusing myself. I do represent the petitioner as their corporate lawyer. Obviously, it would be inappropriate for people to vote on that, and I'm not going to be in the room during that vote. And Vice Chair Garcia will be taking care of that. We have some public comments. Just to remind everyone, public comments limited to 3 minutes per person. You can make that shorter, that's great. We do that at the beginning of the meeting. Any comment on zoning items are limited to discussion of testimony and evidence presented at the Zoning Board of Appeals. This is not an opportunity for new testimony or any new evidence. Let's start with the people who are in the room. And then we've got some that have been tried in electronically. Hopefully we'll all get it in within 30-minute time frame. First person I've got is Andrew. I can't read. Scott, is it? Okay. Andrew, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Andrew Scott. I'm here actually on behalf of the petitioner, Rayburger Holdings. The property at issue is 758 Gary Avenue. It's about 125 by 115 foot deep site that is improved with a 3,000 square foot building. 1,500 square feet is actually improved with a bar. The petitioner is seeking a variety of variations, as you might see, to the front, rear side setback, as well as for parking, in order to be able to put this property back into 100% occupancy rather than the condition it's in today. We frankly think that given all the testimony that was presented to the hearing officer last month, the findings are really inconsistent. If one were to consider all of the setbacks that are required here, it would be virtually impossible to use this building at all. And really all the petitioner is trying to do is to put it back to productive use. It has substantial plans intended to improve the parking lot. Currently it's about 50% improved. It's not striped. They're going to improve it. They're going to improve the facade of the building. It's going to be greatly enhance the appearance. It's going to make stormwater drainage much better, because it's actually going to drain to the public sewer rather than sheeting the way that it does. So frankly, in terms of a finding that there was, we didn't present evidence that we were going to have an impact or a negative impact on the properties, and in terms of impact of light and air, and if we didn't demonstrate a hardship, frankly, it's inconsistent with the testimony that was presented. Again, they're just trying to put the property, they want to make improvements to it, and put it back to productive use, get it back to generating taxes, generating employment opportunities. And so we would hope that you would consider the petition that's before you and the variations you requested, so they can go forward with the project and get the restaurant that they want in there. It also has a companion 6 terminal gaming facility that would be part of the additional currently vacant 1,500 square feet. And we would appreciate your favorable consideration of those facts.
Thank you. Second person, Nick Fox. Morning. Nick. Go ahead.
My name is Nick Fox. I'm the Director of Construction for Rayburger Holdings, who owns this property. I want to reiterate what Mr. Scott said regarding what our intentions are for the building to upgrade this property from its current status. It's my intention to put a new facade on it, makes the building itself look better. Upgrade that parking lot because the majority of it is gravel. There's no organization to it whatsoever. So it's my intention to adjust the drainage. The fire lane will be much clearer for fire engines to get through there. They'll provide a much safer, much more organized on and off of Gary Avenue. But it all starts with this area. In order to do that, in order to do all these upgrades, as we've testified before, that's what our intention for this building is, to bring it up to a more accommodating building for tenants. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Brian Anderson. I'm sorry. I remember. You're right.
Hi, good morning. My name is Brian Armstrong. I represent the applicant Trine Construction Company. This project is at the corner of North Avenue and Morton Road. The property has been used for outside truck parking for the last 25 to 30 years. It's going to continue to be used for the same use. The applicant is just seeking to expand it and also improve the property by cleaning it up, improving the landscape screening on both North Avenue and on Morton Road. They also will leave existing landscape screening on the east and north end of the property. And they're asking to do this as a conditional use for planned development, which will allow the county more control over the development of the property. I note that it did receive a unanimous recommendation from the ZBA. There were no objectors from the public. There were no objections from adjacent municipalities. At least I wouldn't consider them objections. Carroll Stream did make comments. I don't view them as objections, but they did make comments. We've addressed those comments. Their two comments were they did not want right turns out of the facility to head north on Morton Road. We've agreed with that. We're going to put signs up. And we're also going to make that a condition of each lease that every tenant has to sign. And also the highway commissioner, that's Highway Commissioner's Road, Morton Road. He agrees with that condition as long as we include in the lease and put on the sign, no right turns. The other comment from Carroll Stream was the amount of traffic on Morton Road and whether it could handle that amount of traffic. Again, the highway commissioner did not express any objection. That road is under his jurisdiction. He did not express any objection. Didn't ask for any changes to Morton Road. He just asked that the right turn be limited, which we agreed to. The proposed use is consistent with Carroll Stream's comprehensive plan. So again, no objections, unanimous recommendation. So we also respectfully request recommendation. And we have the land planner here if anybody has any questions about it.
Thank you. Joe Spable, did you want to comment?
No, without just here if there's any questions.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we'll go on to the public comment portion that has been given to us electronically. We'll ask the lady to go ahead and read those.
Yes, this is from Wendy Crete. It is in reference to B21 007 005 Route 53 LLC. My husband Dan Crete and myself, Wendy Crete, stand by our comments we made at the hearing last week. We opposed rezoning of the property between Route 53 and Residential Street Lloyd Avenue and unincorporated Lombard. We believe it would have a negative impact on the residents and property values. Many neighbors feel the same way. The next is from Jill Kruziniak. Let's see here. The comment is from Jill and Dan Swazwalik, and they both oppose zoning condition Z21-007. My wife Jill is the original owner of 2 North 480 Lloyd Avenue and has lived at the property for almost 44 years. I have lived there for the better part of 20 years. When the original owner bought the property at 702 Rowling and the surrounding parcels, which are now the point of this hearing, all parcels were zoned as residential. When he started his fire extinguisher business, the business was grandfathered in so he could continue. This was never an issue for the residents on Lloyd Avenue because the owner was respectful to the neighbors and the property was maintained as residential with many mature trees that blended into the neighborhood. At some point before the sale to US Lighting, The zoning of 702 Rowling was permanently changed to commercial. This was done without the surrounding residents notified of any type of hearing and or given a chance to weigh in on the matter. The same holds true for the right of way that was given up for consideration of Dickens Avenue by Bloomingdale Township on one side and the village of Addison on the other side. Since Route 53 LLC has taken over the property, all foliage has been bulldozed down, as well as 7 to 9 mature trees cut down. Reasons for opposing: the property is surrounded on 3 sides by residential, north, south, and west. The noise emitting from the property from trucks, machines, generators continues all day and as late as 11 p.m. 7 days a week. The owner, as well as his employees, have shown no respect to the neighborhood. The property looks like a junkyard and a garbage dump. Route 53 LLC has been allowed to operate their business out of code since they moved onto the premises. The value of our homes will drop. They have advertised yard space for rent and are parking junk vehicles on residential lots. My wife has even been taunted by employees of the company. They are going to buy up the remaining vacant lots south on Lloyd Avenue adjacent to the property and turn it into a parking lot. If this is allowed to go forward, the vacant property currently being marketed for sale between the south parcel and Armitage could be bought and rezoned commercial, thus destroying the value of the existing residential properties for good. We plead with this committee to deny this request to rezone. We, as well as our neighbors, have invested much in our community and have much invested. We would also like the committee to look into how 702 Rowling was rezoned as commercial, as well as how the Dickens right-of-way was sold without our community being made aware that this was happening. The next one is from Gregory Belarchek. It is in regards to Z21 007. My name is Gregory Belarchek. I live at 2 North 450 Lloyd Avenue, directly west of the property, seeking rezoning from R4 to B2 per zoning petition Z21 007. For the record, I do not support a rezoning of the property in question from residential R4 to business B2 for the reasons noted below. The property in question has been a residential property since the time I first moved there in 1977. The neighborhood has been a quiet, safe, and peaceful area since 1977. Any deviation from the current zoning of the property along the Rowling Road, directly east of my residence and nearly 70 plus homes north, south, and west of me will affect the neighborhood and negatively impact that quiet, safe, and peacefulness that we all enjoy. The move to rezone the petitioner's property to a business class is not in harmony with the existing environment in the neighborhood and its growth and continued development as residential. The neighborhood surrounding the property is seeking rezoning on the north, the south, and the west is residential. The property in question is bordered on the east by State Route 53. In that configuration, the only business near a residential neighborhood now begin east of State Route 53. The only other businesses near our neighborhood are located south of the electric utility property, directly south of our neighborhood, and on the north of the railroad tracks and Fullerton Road. There are nearly 70 plus homes in total surrounding property defined by the petition. There are no business zone properties. All the surrounding residential properties have one access to the residences. Nearly 35 homes have one access via Winthrop Avenue, and the remaining 35 homes have one access at Armitage Avenue. Along Route 53, the rezoning property rests between these two access streets. Any traffic interferences between Winthrop and Armitage Avenues along Route 53 potentially create a hazard that negatively affects access into or out of our neighborhood. The traffic on Route 53 already is an issue for our neighborhood. Furthermore, many of the residences are homes for families with children required to use school busing to attend school as well, which places the children in harm's way. Since the property along Route 53 presents a higher elevation than most of the neighborhood to the west, there is a concern about draining and or flooding potential with the inclusion of less drainable surfaces that could increase runoff to the west, north, and the south of the petitioner's property. During the hearing of March 31st, 2021 on this petition, it was stated by the petitioner representative that the existing drainage plans, which already exist and were previously approved and in place, would be adhered to. I would recommend that any changes to use of this property via rezoning from residential to business require a new evaluation of the drainage situation, since the current drainage plan would have been based upon residential use. Thank you. The next is from Helen Belarchek. I appreciate the opportunity to voice my opinion. I live at 2 North 450 Lloyd Avenue in Lombard, Illinois. I've lived in the same house since 1977. There are several points I would like to state. I oppose the petitioner's request to rezone the property from R4 to B2. This property is residential and all the surrounding lots are residential on the west side of Route 53. I don't understand how this business can be operating while still under the R4 status. Armitage Avenue is the only access into and out of our neighborhood. There is also only one access into and out of the neighborhood north of petitioner's property, Winthrop Avenue. I am surprised that the village of Addison allowed the fire extinguisher company to conduct business on a residential property all these years. However, the company was respectful of our neighborhood. Since the fire extinguisher company sold the property, our neighborhood has seen unsightly changes along Lloyd Avenue. The two houses at the end of the block are now faced with a parking lot full of trucks. The noise level has gone up substantially with the removal of trees that were between Lloyd Avenue and Route 53. The berm that was placed there doesn't make much of a difference in appearance and sound. Their plans show 2 new grease traps. If this is an electrical contracting office and outside storage, what is the need for 2 grease traps? Our unincorporated houses have our own wells and septic fields. Our wells are in the front of our houses. The concern would be the drainage from the site. I think any kind of changes that are taking place need to have surveys conducted and permits granted on how the change in the topography will affect the surrounding areas. The removal of the trees and parking lot is certainly going to affect the water runoff during heavy rains. There are several vacant residential lots south of the petitioner's property bordering Lloyd Avenue, Armitage Avenue, and Route 53. My concern is if his rezoning is approved, the potential for purchasing these lots and requesting rezoning of them would be a very viable possibility. If rezoning is granted, it will negatively impact our property values with the possibility of the aforementioned vacant lots being rezoned. No one will want to purchase our houses because we will be in the middle of an industrial park. At the last Zoom meeting, the petitioner or his attorney brought up the subject that there are already businesses being conducted out of the residential homes. I looked on the Google map and here is what I found. At one time, there's a listing for Medici Builders that is no longer showing on the Google map. The person owning that company hasn't lived in that house since 2004. And although records may show a business, it was a business mailing address. He never had building materials on his property. Captain Jewelry Store looks like it is in our neighborhood or shows our neighbor's house, but if you click on the icon, it gives you an address of 2 South 110 Lloyd Avenue, which would be near Butterfield Road. I believe Casa Hernandez Home Daycare was a business in our neighborhood, but I don't know what kind of license is needed for an in-home daycare. I'm not familiar with any other businesses that this gentleman is referring to. Thank you for your time. This one is from Carrie Becker. I, Carrie Becker, oppose of this rezoning. This is a residential neighborhood and I would like to keep it that way. My concerns are if you rezone, we will not have a buffer from Route 53, which means more noise, dust, and God only knows. I feel our property values will go downhill with this. What is seeping in our well water with all the trucks and junk sitting over there? We have only one way in and one way out of this neighborhood. More traffic and more trucks trying to go the wrong way and nowhere to turn around. This could also bring crime to the area, which we do not have a problem with now. I love our quiet, safe, and pretty neighborhood, and I really hope it can stay that way. Thank you. This is from a Chris Becker. I, Chris Becker, would like to object to the rezoning of the area from residential to business. I'm worried about the values of our neighborhood homes with this becoming a massive vehicle storage. And from what has been witnessed so far, shop and refuse collection, I worry about our wells and the water quality that we will have. There will be a lot of extra traffic in the area and our no exit street will be more congested. We have already witnessed on multiple occasions commercial vehicles coming down our street only to have nowhere to go or turn around and having to cut back. The excess noise and commotion at all hours of the day and night, as well as our small buffer from commercial properties on the east side of Route 53. There's also the matter of flooding. With all these new non-permeable surface to be added, it will force all the rainwater to our and adjacent areas, leaving standing water and who knows what from the washout. And the last one is from a Daniel Martinez. I strongly oppose the rezoning petition submitted by Route 53 LLC. In its present state, the property in question is surrounded by undeveloped lots and occupied properties currently zoned as residential, with a buffer to commercial properties by Route 53. The location in question in relation to the residential properties would not benefit the county or any of its residents that surround it in the slightest. With the intention of the property as presented, the petition would not coincide with the current plan for the development of the area that is currently in progress. Allowing this property to be rezoned would put the completion of the current development in jeopardy and potentially hurt the property values of all the current homes in the area, thus risking the values assessed for future tax revenue.
And just to be clear, all of those that you read electronically were on item B, correct? Okay. Okay, thank you to all those who have publicly commented, both in person and electronically. And moving on, we'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of Tuesday, April 6th, 2021.
Rutledge.
Motion by member Rutledge, second by whom?
Mhm.
Member
Somebody?
Ruzewski?
Yes.
Any additions, corrections, or deletions? Hearing none, seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the minutes are approved. Moving on to regulatory services, entertain a motion to approve item 6A, ECO 27-21, ordinance Z21-5, Ryberger Holdings LLC. This was a zoning hearing officer's recommendation to deny a variation to reduce the front yard setback, variation to reduce the south side setback, variation to reduce the rear setback, variation to reduce required parking spaces, and variation from the required landscape requirements. While the zoning hearing officer did deny this, all of our motions are made in the affirmative. Do I have a motion to approve the ordinance?
So moved.
It's a motion by member
Ozark.
Ozark, second by member Rutledge. Okay, any questions, comments of staff? Yes.
Yeah, I have
Vice
one
Chair,
quick
yes.
question to staff. I mean, they're going down from, it looks like, they want to go from 38 spaces, which are required, to 28 spaces. And I mean, I drove there and I just don't see how that's going to work for the 3 tenant spaces. So I'm just trying to get staff's maybe opinion on how that would work with the businesses that they are actually suggesting.
Paul, you want to address?
So, this is the property on Gary Avenue, correct?
Yes.
Right. So that's one of the problems, is that this is a strip shopping center and there's a minimum parking requirement of 5 parking spaces per 1,000 for typical commercial uses. The tenant spaces that are in there now have legal non-conforming parking relative to that 5 per 1,000. The issue that, and they struggle with their parking requirements.
I think it's a bar that's there, that's open.
There's a
right?
bar there, and then there are 2 other tenant spaces. In the past, those other tenant spaces have been operated by retail businesses and actually an illegal business that we were able to get out of there. But the number of parking spaces are 5 per 1,000 based on our ordinance. They struggle to have appropriate parking, and they are parking in some instances in the township right-of-way, which is to the south and to the west of the building.
Okay.
However, in this particular case, this is a restaurant facility, and restaurant facilities have larger parking requirements. They have 15 parking spaces per 1,000. So what the petitioner is asking for here is to reduce the number of parking spaces that are already legal non-conforming, and also to reduce the setbacks to accommodate some of the new parking spaces that they were looking to put on the property. And effectively, the hearing officer found that while this is a legal non-conforming parking situation for the permitted B2 uses, anything new would even exacerbate the problem that's already existing on the
That was
property. That's
my
the reason
thoughts
for the
when I
denial.
drove there. Okay. Thank you, Paul.
Yes, member
Yeah,
Rutledge.
thank you, Sam. So basically, is there any business that could go in this building that would be able to meet the zoning requirements for parking spaces?
Yes, there are. So any business that has a parking requirement of 5 per 1,000 would be allowed to go in there, because the 5 per 1,000 parking ratio is grandfathered in. So there are retail establishments that in theory could go in there. Once again, the issue here is because the parking requirements for this restaurant are 15 per 1,000, that creates the problem. But there are retail businesses that could go in there and use the existing legal non-conforming parking.
And how long has it been a restaurant?
Well, it's not a restaurant. It's
This
a
was
bakery building.
the
Yeah, I know. what
Massage
you're
parlor,
talking
whatever you
about.
want to call it.
Okay.
Okay.
The only use that's in there currently is Sully's Bar.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking
Yes.
of.
That's been in there for probably 3 decades. There have been a myriad of uses, retail uses in this, on this property over the years. We've had 2 adult business uses that we've had to get out of there, most recently the massage parlor a couple of years ago. But other than that, it's been a vacant tenant space. Sully's Bar's been in there for probably about 2 decades though.
And is the parking requirement different for a bar than a restaurant?
It is. If the bar were to sort of morph into a restaurant where they're serving food, then they too would have the 15 parking space requirements. But they don't have that right now.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there a restriction about gaming,
Okay.
or is that tied in with, for parking
So there is not. The county doesn't have
specifically?
any specific language on gaming other than gaming is allowed. And then we follow the state statute. The state statute, the state law for gaming essentially says you have to be a restaurant, a truck stop facility, or a social service facility, like or not social service, but a VFW or something like that,
Okay.
social organization.
Okay,
The way that the gaming facilities are coming into the county is through the restaurant
right.
ordinance. And the
Okay.
restaurant ordinance kicks in the parking
And
requirements.
there's the 15 per
Correct.
1,000. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, Brian.
I think that's what the city of Wheaton is supposed to, right? They said under their rules, it'd be like 45 spaces would be what they would require with regards to the parking. So that was a big issue for them.
So Paul, given the ordinance, we talked about per 1,000, given the square footage that we have, how many parking spaces would conform to the code, and how many are the petitioner asking for? Total, you won't give me that number.
For the total strip shopping center, I believe it's 40, what did it say there, 45?
38.
38, I'm sorry, yeah. Yeah, sorry. So for the total shopping area, it'd be 38. And that would include Sully's and the tenant space that the petitioner is looking to go into.
Okay, so we're taking the entire
Yeah,
space.
taking the entire, because it's a strip shopping center, petitioners have to take into consideration the entire shopping center.
Okay. Any further questions? Paul, any questions? Anyone? Comments? Okay, let's do a roll call on this. We have a motion to approve, even though the matter was denied. So an aye vote here is to approve the petition or reverse the zoning hearing officer's recommendation.
Member Krajewski,
No.
member Colbert,
No.
member Garcia,
No.
member Ozark,
No.
member Rutledge,
No.
Chair Tornatoy.
No, and the motion is denied. Moving on to item B, I'll entertain a motion to approve DCO 28-21, ordinance C 21-7, 5RT53 LLC. This is zoning hearing officer's recommendation to deny a rezoning from R4 a conditional use for a contracting office, variation from the required 40-yard rear yard setback, variation from the required 20-yard interior side to approximately 10 feet, a variation from the required 100-yard width to existing 97 lot width, variation from the required 40-yard front yard setback, variation from the required 20-foot interior side yard to approximately 10 feet. This was a denial from the zoning hearing officer. I'll entertain a motion to approve this ordinance, please.
So moved, Rutledge.
A motion
Second,
by member
Garcia.
Rutledge, second by member Garcia. Any questions, comments of staff? Anyone? Vice Chair Garcia.
Just real quick, a comment on this. I mean, when I drove out there, I mean, it's obvious that it's there illegally. I'm assuming that this is a violation once again. And the trees they cut down, they just kind of left. I mean, to me, yes, this is already a detriment to the neighborhood, so I'll be voting no on this.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, we have a motion to approve the zoning hearing officer's recommendation to deny. Again, an aye vote would be overturning the zoning hearing officer's recommendation. A nay vote would be sustaining it. I'll do a roll call on this one.
Member Krajewski,
You No.
Member Colbert,
No.
Member Garcia,
No.
Member Ozark,
No.
Member Rutledge,
No.
Director Torrey.
No, and the motion failed. Moving on to item C, I will entertain a motion to approve DCO 30-21, ordinance C 21-9, urban. This is a zoning hearing officer's recommendation to approve a conditional use to allow an existing shed to remain less than 30 feet from the corner side property line.
So moved.
Second, Garcia.
Motion and a second. Any questions, comments? On this one, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, and the motion passes. Moving on to item D, we'll entertain a motion to approve DCO 31-21, ordinance C 21-10, Karlovitz. This is a zoning hearing officer's recommendation to approve the variation to reduce the 30-foot corner side yard setback to approximately 13 feet for a new pool and concrete pool deck. The motion approved.
So moved.
Second, Garcia.
Motion by member Ozak, seconded by member Garcia. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, I have a quick question for
Sure.
this. What is the impermeable surface? What is, how much can they have? 34%, or what is the percentage that they can have in terms of impermeable surface? It seems like the whole lot is almost covered with impermeable surface.
So the zoning ordinance doesn't have lot coverage or impervious surfaces. We only have setbacks and what's called floor area ratio for the principal buildings.
Okay.
For structures like swimming pools and decks and patios, we only have setbacks. We don't have lot coverage.
Okay, so when they go for a permit, they would have to comply with all lot coverage requirements, correct, or no?
Well, no, once again, we don't have lot coverage requirements,
There's none whatsoever in the county?
not for unincorporated. We don't
Really?
do lot coverage. We do, we handle our, what are called bulk regulations by first and foremost setbacks,
Okay.
and then also for a principal building like a house or a shed or a closed building. It's called floor area ratio. We have a limitation on that.
Okay.
In this zoning district, that limitation would be 0.35, but a swimming pool doesn't fall into that category. So the only requirement for a swimming pool is that it has to be a certain distance from property at the setbacks.
Okay. Good to know. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, all comments? Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the zoning hearing officer's recommendation. All is in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries. Moving on to item E, as I indicated before, I have a potential conflict on this vote, so I will turn the mayor over to Vice Chair Garcia. On item E,
Tori.
give me a holler when you're done.
All right, I'm gonna motion for DC 0032-21 ordinance C 21-011 Trine Construction Corporation to recommend to approve the following zone relief, rezoning from R2 single family and B2 to OR conditional use for a planned development for outside storage of commercial vehicles and warehouse 3. Exception to reduce the setbacks for existing structures. Can I have a motion, please?
Second, Ozark.
Any questions? No questions, so I ask for a voice vote on this. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? No nays. Motion is approved. Come on back in.
Okay. Moving on to the last item, item F. I want to entertain a motion to approve DCO 33-21, ordinance C 2116. The ZMA, this is the zoning hearing officer's recommendation to approve a variation to increase the height of the wall from 8 feet to approximately 10 feet. This is adjacent to I-355.
Motion approved. Garcia.
Second, Rutledge.
Motion and a second to approve. This is the zoning hearing officer's recommendation to approve. Any questions, comments? All is in favor? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries. We have any old business? Do we have any new business? Welcome back, Member Ozark. And welcome to Member Swarzy as our guest. hopefully we have been as accommodating to you as you were to your committee. I'm sure. There being no further business, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Everybody move that one. And there's a second. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Hold on.